Okay, for cereals, I think the most popular ones in Malaysia is tapai pulut. Tapai pulut is a fermented rice, considered as a dessert with sweet acid taste and mild alcoholic flavor. So if you ferment them for a longer time, they can develop a stronger alcoholic flavor. It is prepared by fermenting boiled tapioca tuber, starch, the source of starch, or steamed glutinous rice ragi for about 48 to 72 hours. During the fermentation, the pH can decrease to 4 and ethanol content can increase up to 7%. So, as a Muslim, if the alcohol is not high enough that can cause you to become drunk, you actually can eat the tapai. Okay, so there are many microorganisms in the ragi. The first one, the most famous one is A. roxy and the Rhizopus oryzae, the same as the one that can be found in koji. It can also contain yeast and so on, depending on the mixture of the ragi. Enzymes produced by this microorganism are usually hemolytic, means that they react on the starch or the carbohydrate, because cereals, the main component is carbohydrate, not protein like legumes. Okay, saccharification is then followed by alcoholic fermentation by the yeast. Bacterial fermentation may be also involved as an acid test, though pH is evident, but it's not a dominant process, unless the incubation conditions are not suitable for ragi. Organism or contamination had taken place. Okay, so we actually don't really want the bacteria, we want the yeast and also the fungi to grow in the tapai. Okay, this is a process you can read it by yourself. Okay, another popular ones is tosai, but I think tosai is more popular in the Indian community compared to compared to the Malay community. It has a characteristic sour taste, okay, due to the less lactic acid production by lactic acid bacteria. Okay, the fermentation involved is spontaneous, means that we don't have to put the starter microorganism. It can happen spontaneously, as the microorganism are the natural microflora of rice and dal. Okay, so this is the process. The rice and the urad dal, they contain the natural microflora. So when we grind them to smooth paste or batter, we add some salt and then we can let them to ferment using the natural microflora that will contribute to the sour taste. Okay, I noticed that every time we use the spontaneous fermentation, usually the main microorganism that present in the fermentation is lactic acid bacteria. So that's why they usually taste sour. For example, kimchi and so on. Okay. Another starch fermentation, it can also happen by using cassava or tapioca, potato, yam, and taro. Okay, from different region in the world. Another famous fermentation is dairy. Okay, I think the most famous one is cheese, followed by yogurt. Okay, we also have other things such as dahi, laban, and kashits. Okay, from different part of the world. Okay, also have skyr, kefir, okay, and also Bulgarian milk. Trahana, Chirpi, Yakult, which is quite famous because we have it in Malaysia, Vili, and so on. Okay, because cheese is so famous, we take a look a little bit at cheese production. Okay, during the ancient legend, cheese was accidentally made by Arabian merchant, so it's actually not from Europe lah. It's actually come from Arab, who put his supply of milk in a pouch made of sheep's stomach. Because the sheep's stomach contained the enzyme responsible for cheese production, so cheese was produced in the sheep's stomach. Okay, because they are being separated into curd and also whey. Okay, in the stomach of the animal, they have this enzyme called as renin or rennet. Okay, there are now more than 2,000 names. Okay, can be the name can be based on the origin or the country that is produced, source of meat, method of production, moisture content, and so on. Okay, The two following tables show some of the more well-known cheese varieties. Okay, as you can see, we have different types of cheese such as soft or ripened. We can have semi-soft, hard or ripened, or very hard. Okay, as well as parmesan and so on. You can read it by yourself. Okay, this is the picture of the cheese. Okay, we have blue cheese. I think the blue cheese contain the strongest flavor and aroma. Okay, this is the production of cheese. You can watch the production of cheese in YouTube. They have plenty of it. Okay, started from milk, we add the rennet and the starter culture, and then we will form the curd, and then we separate the curd and the whey. This curd will be pressed, and we will produce the cheese. Okay, and the quality and the tastes and aroma of the cheese can be dependent on how long we ferment them, how long we allow them to ripen. Okay, and also we add certain microorganisms that can contribute to the taste. Okay, another dairy product is very popular is yogurt. Okay, usually it have yogurt is produced in Europe. Not usually, it means historically Europe is the first country that produce yogurt. The microorganisms that use are usually Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Staphylococcus thermophilus, the one that can also be found in the cultured drink, for example, yogurt. Okay, there are also other type of microorganism or LAB that is being used in yogurt, and they are very good for the gut health. Okay, meat can also be fermented, but it's not very popular in Malaysia. Okay, we can have sour meat because LAB is being used, so it contributes to the sour taste. We can also have fermented sausage, smoked fermented sausage, fermented dry sausage, ham, and lechon. I think lechon is Chinese food, but basically it is a meat fermentation. So what happens is the beef or the beef fat or the pork can be ground together or individually, and then we mix with spices, starter culture, sugar, and cumin salt. Some of the sausage, they are not fermented, means that they don't have starter culture. But the one that is fermented, we need to add the starter culture. They will develop a distinct taste. I don't think I ever taste the fermented sausage before. Okay, we also add antimicrobial agent, for example, nitrate. This nitrate can inhibit the growth of microorganisms and also turn the sausage into bright pink, so they look very attractive to be eaten. Okay, and then we stuff the meat inside the intestine or plastic container, and then we proceed with fermentation and we allow them to ripen. Okay, so in sausage usually there will be growth of LAB and another type of microorganism. Okay, because LAB is growing, so the main product are lactic acid and acetic acid. In more ripened products, sometimes we can also use more. The pH may rise to 6 due to the lactic acid consumption by the mold. Reduction of nitrate to nitrates and formation of nitrosomyoglobin, rich in red color, so the color is attractive. Okay, also there will be degradation of protein and lipid, development of flavor, and for the fermented cheese, usually we need to dehydrate them. So sometimes we call them as dry sausage to inhibit the growth of pathogen and inactivation of protein. Because if we don't dry them, they will continue ferment and it will develop a weird taste. We also have several fermented fish products, for example, fish sauce, budu, pakasam in Malay, and so on. Okay. Fish sauce usually is clear brown liquid and contains fishy smell because the fish has undergone fermentation, and then we filter the flesh and we get the liquid. Okay, we also add salt for the same reason as the soy sauce fermentation, to inhibit the growth of pathogenic microorganism. Okay, the main agent of change are enzymes which may be located within the tissue of the fish. Okay, and the microorganism that we add is usually involved in the formation of aroma. Okay, so this is the example of the production of fish sauce. You can read it by yourself. Okay, we also have fruit and vegetable fermentation. The most famous one, I think, in Malaysia is kimchi, because we watch a lot of Korean series. Okay, you can have alcoholic beverages, for example, beer and wine. Sauerkraut is something like kimchi, but it is from Germany, I think. Pickled vegetable, sayur asin, tempoyak from durian, and vinegar. Acetic acid production. Okay, you can read the example of fermented beverages here. Okay, one of the most famous fermented beverage is tea. Okay, the fermentation of tea is enzymatic, means that it is probably not involving any microorganism, but it involves enzyme fermentation. It changes the chemical structure of tea leaf, allowing the key flavor to develop. The longer the fermentation process, the more caffeine is contained. The varieties of teas are distinguished by the amount of fermentation that takes place during the processing. So it means that the longer the fermentation, probably it will produce a stronger type of tea. So in my opinion, like black tea, probably they have longer fermentation compared to the white tea. Okay, read it by yourself. Okay, the production of tea. Okay, there are also other types of fermentation. For example, coconut press cake or bongkrek in Indonesia. I'm not sure what it is. I've never eaten it before. But it seems something like tempeh. Coconut water, nata de coco, can also be fermented using one strain of bacteria. Okay, they can produce the cellulose that can cause the coconut drink to harden, and then we get rid of the liquid and we can cut the hardened part of the coconut drink. Okay, we also have honey, and also one of the popular one is kombucha tea. In kombucha tea, we brew the tea and then we put a type of mushroom or mold or fungi in the tea, and then we ferment them for a few for a few weeks, I think, and then we can drink the tea. It is very nutritious. Okay, for the assignments, I think we will talk about this later, because this assignment needs to replace your test 1 and test 2, because we cannot have them. Okay, so until then, I will meet you in the next lecture. Thank you.